I used to think the worst part of working night security was the boredom. Just walking empty hallways, checking locked doors, making sure nobody broke in. But after 3 months at the Riverside Mall, I learned something far worse than Bariri. Some places aren't abandoned because people left. They're abandoned because something made them leave. And whatever that something is, it's still there, waiting in the dark. My name is Marcus, and I took the security job at Riverside Mall in October of last year. The pay was decent, and honestly, I needed the money. The mall had been closed for 5 years after some kind of structural issue. At least, that's what they told me. My supervisor, a tired-looking guy named Ron, handed me a flashlight, a radio, and a set of keys on my first night. He gave me the basic rundown. Walk the perimeter every 2 hours. Check all the exit doors. Make sure nobody's trying to squat inside. Simple enough. But then Ron said something that stuck with me. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Don't go into the food court after midnight. Just don't." I laughed it off, thinking he was messing with the new guy. He didn't laugh back. He just repeated himself, slower this time. "I'm serious, Marcus. Stay out of the food court after midnight." Then he left me there, alone in that massive, dark building. The mall was huge. 3 floors, over 200 stores, all sitting empty. My footsteps echoed down the corridors as I started my first patrol. Mannequins stood frozen in store windows, their blank faces watching me pass. The skylights let in just enough moonlight to cast long shadows across the tile floors. Everything seemed fine for the first few hours. I checked doors, wrote down my patrol times, and tried not to think about how creepy the place felt. But around 11:30, I heard something. A sound coming from somewhere above me. It was faint at first, like music, old music, the kind that would play over mall speakers. That tinny, cheerful elevator music that nobody actually enjoys. But the mall had no power except for the emergency lights. There shouldn't have been any music at all, the kind that would play over mall speakers. That tinny, cheerful elevator music that nobody actually enjoys. But the mall had no power except for the emergency lights. There shouldn't have been any music at all. I stood there in the middle of the second floor, straining to hear. The music was definitely real. It was coming from the 3rd floor, near the old arcade and the food court. My heart started beating faster. Ron's warning echoed in my head. But it wasn't midnight yet. I had time. I told myself I needed to check it out. That was my job, right? So I headed toward the escalators, my flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The music got louder as I climbed. It was some instrumental version of a song I couldn't quite place. Pleasant and hollow at the same time. My heart started beating faster. Ron's warning echoed in my head, but it wasn't midnight yet. I had time. I told myself I needed to check it out. That was my job, right? So I headed toward the escalators, my flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The music got louder as I climbed. It was some instrumental version of a song I couldn't quite place. Pleasant and hollow at the same time. When I reached the 3rd floor, the music stopped. Just like that. Dead silence. I swept my flashlight across the area. The arcade was to my left, its darkened game cabinets lined up like tombstones. To my right was the food court, a wide open space with tables and chairs still arranged like people might sit down at any moment. The old restaurant counters stood empty. Burger Palace, China Express, Pizza Plaza. All the signs were still up, faded and dusty. I checked my watch. 11:47. Still had 13 minutes before midnight. I walked closer to the food court entrance, my flashlight beam dancing across the tables. That's when I saw her. A little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, standing perfectly still near one of the tables. She wore a dirty white dress and her long dark hair hung down over her face. My whole body went cold. "Hey," I called out, my voice cracking. "Hey, kid, you can't be in here." She didn't move, didn't respond, just stood there, facing away from me. I took a step forward, and she turned her head. Slowly, too slowly, but I couldn't see her face. The hair covered it completely. Then she spoke, her voice high and sing-songy. "Do you want to play with me?" Every instinct I had screamed at me to run. But I'm not a coward. I took another step forward. "Where are your parents? How did you get in here?" The little girl tilted her head at an unnatural angle. "I've been here a very long time," she said. "I'm so lonely. Won't you play with me?" I glanced at my watch again. 11:52. My hand was shaking. "Listen, I need to call someone. You need to go home." She took a step toward me, then another. Her movements were jerky, like a puppet on strings. "But I am home," she whispered. "This is where I live now, where we all live." I stumbled backward. "We? Who's we?" That's when I heard them. Footsteps. Dozens of footsteps. Coming from every direction. The shadows around the food court seemed to move and shift. Figures emerged from the darkness. Men in business suits with hollow eyes. Women in outdated clothing with skin like paper. Teenagers in mall employee uniforms. Their name tags still pinned to their chests. They all stared at me with the same empty expression. All of them slowly walking toward me. I checked my watch one more time. 11:58. "You shouldn't be here," one of them said. A man in a security uniform just like mine. His face was gray and sunken. "Not after midnight." I turned and ran. I ran faster than I've ever run in my life. Behind me, I could hear them. Not running, just walking. But their footsteps were everywhere, echoing off the walls, getting closer. The music started again, louder this time. That same cheerful melody, now sounding twisted and wrong. I hit the escalator and practically fell down it, catching myself on the railing. I could hear them at the top, beginning their descent. Still walking, always walking. I reached the first floor and sprinted toward the security office. My hands fumbled with the keys as I unlocked the door and threw myself inside, slamming it behind me. I locked it and pushed a desk against it for good measure. My radio crackled to life. "Marcus." It was Ron's voice, but it sounded distant, fuzzy. "Marcus, you still there?" I grabbed the radio with shaking hands. Ron, there are people in here. I don't know who they are or how they got in, but there are dozens of them." Silence. Then Ron's voice came back, sad and tired. "You went to the food court, didn't you?" "After I told you not to. I had to check it out. I heard music and there was a little girl and—" "There's no little girl, Marcus," Ron interrupted. "There hasn't been a little girl here for 5 years." My blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" Ron sighed. "The mall didn't close because of structural issues. It closed because of what happened in the food court. There was a fire. Started in one of the restaurant kitchens. Spread fast. Too fast. 23 people died that day. Mostly employees. A few customers. One little girl who was celebrating her birthday. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because most people who work here never see them. They stay in the food court. They stay where they died. As long as you don't go looking for them after midnight, they leave you alone." I looked at the security monitor screens. They were old, grainy, black and white. Most of them showed empty corridors and dark storefronts. But one screen showed the hallway just outside my office door. And they were there. All of them, standing perfectly still in the darkness, watching the door, waiting. "Ron, what do I do?" "They're right outside. Stay in the office until sunrise, he said. Don't open that door. Don't make a sound. When the sun comes up, they'll go back. They always go back. Back where? I whispered. Back to the food court. Back to where they belong. That was the longest night of my life. I sat in that office, watching those monitors, seeing those figures standing motionless in the hallway. Sometimes one of them would move slightly, turn their head, take a single step closer to the door, but they never tried to break in. They just waited and watched. Around 4 in the morning, the little girl appeared on one of the screens. She was standing right in front of the office door. I could see her through the camera, her face still hidden behind that curtain of dark hair. She raised one small hand and knocked. 3 soft taps. Then her voice, muffled through the door. Please play with me. I'm so lonely. I didn't respond. I barely breathed. She knocked again. 3 more taps. Everyone leaves me. Everyone always leaves. Won't you stay? Tears ran down my face as I sat there in the dark, listening to this dead child beg for companionship. But I didn't open that door. I couldn't. Finally, as the first gray light of dawn began seeping through the skylights, they started to leave. One by one, the figures turned and walked away, back toward the escalators, back toward the 3rd floor, back to the food court. The little girl was the last to go. She stood there for a long moment, her hand still raised as if to knock again. Then she lowered it slowly and turned away, disappearing into the shadows. When the sun was fully up, I opened the office door. The hallway was empty. No signs that anyone had been there at all. I quit that day. Didn't even pick up my last paycheck. Just walked out of Riverside Mall and never went back. Ron called me a few times, but I didn't answer. What could I say? That I couldn't handle it? That I wasn't brave enough? Maybe that's true. I found another job. Day shift at a regular office building. Normal hours. Normal people. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm lying in bed trying to sleep, I hear it. That music. Faint and far away, but unmistakable. That same cheerful melody echoing from somewhere I can't quite place. I heard from a friend recently that they finally demolished Riverside Mall, tore the whole thing down, and built a shopping center in its place. New stores, new restaurants, a new food court. I drove past it last week. Curiosity got the better of me. The place was packed with people, families with kids, teenagers hanging out, everyone laughing and shopping and eating. Normal life. But as I sat there in my car, watching through the window, I saw something that made my blood freeze. A little girl in a white dress, standing perfectly still near the food court entrance, her long dark hair hanging down over her face. She turned her head slowly toward my car, as if she could sense me watching. And even though I couldn't see her face, I knew she was smiling, because some places aren't haunted by buildings. They're haunted by what happened there. And no matter how much you tear down, no matter how much you rebuild, some stains never wash away. They just wait, patient and hungry, for someone new to play with.